This tutorial is going to explain to you how to create your title page for digital photography using a range of different images, the type tool and clipping masks as well. So what we need to first learn is how to set up a document on Adobe Photoshop. So once Photoshop is opened, you'll need to go to File and New, and you need to name your new document. So I'm going to call it Digital Photography Title Page. Okay, so here in the preset options, there's lots of different choices that we can select depending on what we're designing or what we're creating. You can also type in a custom size, but for the purpose of this tutorial, we're going to look at international paper. And this has all our A4, A3 sizes. So we're going to select A4. So once that's all selected, I'm going to click OK. Now I want a landscape title page, so I'm going to rotate my canvas by going to Image and rotate canvas to 90 degrees clockwise. So then I've got my rotated canvas there. Now what you need to do next is create two new layers. So one layer will be for our type and one layer will be for our photographic images. So in the panel down the bottom here is our layers. Okay, so I'm going to click on this little icon here, and as you toggle over it, it tells you what it is. So I'm going to click that twice to create two layers. So it's a bit like a sandwich. So I've got my two layers, and then you will always have your background that will stay there, and that is locked. So I'm going to click on layer 1, and I'm going to select my type tool, which is this one here. Again, if you toggle over it, it will tell you what it is or what it does. So I'm going to click on that. Now up the top here, just like Microsoft Word, you can change your font. You can change the size. Obviously it only goes up to 72, so you can highlight and type in the size that you want, and you've got your color here. So I want to make mine black. Okay, so I'm going to go with impact so that there's enough text there to clip out the images that I'm going to put over the top. So it's important that you select a font that is quite bold so that you get the most out of your images, and you'll see why once I start. So I'm just going to click anywhere on the page, and I'm going to type in digital photography. Now if you toggle over to the left, right, you'll see this move tool mouse come up. That means that you can position it wherever you want it. So I'm going to put it in the middle, and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger as well. So I'm going to make that about 150, is a pretty good size. Okay, so once you're happy with that, you need to click back on your move tool or on another layer. What that does is that sets that type layer in place. Until you do either of those things, you can't really do much other than work on that type layer. So it's always good practice to click back to your move tool if you get stuck or things aren't working the way that they want or that you want them to. So back to my move tool. Now I'm going to select layer 2 because this is going to be where I'm putting all my images on. So what you should have done is you should have saved 18 images because there's 18 letters. So as you can see, I've labeled them 1 through to 18. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Photoshop and I'm going to go File and Place. Now this is one way of putting images into a document. There is another way which you'll learn further down the track, but for this tutorial we're going to use the Place tool. So I'm going to select Place, and I'm going to select my first picture there. So I've got my Border Collie puppy there. As you can see, it's got diagonals across it, and it's too big, so I need to make it the correct size so that it will fit over one of my letters. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use one of these corners. Now if I just go like that, it's out of proportion. Okay, it's going to look funny. So what you need to do is you need to hold down Shift whilst you're dragging it in. If you don't hold down Shift, you won't get it in proportion. So it's important not to let go of Shift until you've let go of your click. So that it stays the size that you want. So I'm going to move that, just position it over the D. Once I'm happy, I'm going to press enter. So obviously I can't see where it is on the letter. So what you need to do is in the opacity change here, you can drop that down and that will create more of a see-through image. So we want to be able to see the image, but we also want to be able to see the letter. So I'm going to position that a little bit better so I've got a bit of both puppy's eyes in that D. So basically what it's going to cut out is this letter out of that image. Now I want to delete this outside part because I don't want it going into my I and my G. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click that layer and select rasterize layer. Now I'm going to go over to my rectangular marquee tool, which is this one, and I'm just going to drag and select the part that I want to delete. Okay, and then I'm just going to click the delete button. Okay, again, drag and press the delete button. Now as you can see, I've got these running ants. Now to get rid of those, you need to go to select and deselect, or use the shortcut which is Control D, and that will get rid of those. Okay, so that's my first picture done. I'm just going to do it once more to show you again. So File, Place, select your second image, and I'm going to drag that over my eye, and I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. So I'm going to hold down Shift so that it stays in proportion, and I'm going to click Enter. So I'm going to drop my opacity down so I can actually see where it is on the letter, and I want to get a bit of the two eyes in that one. Okay, so again, right click and rasterize. If you don't click rasterize, what will happen is this. You'll go to select it and delete it, and it will say that it cannot complete it. So if that pops up, make sure that you've right clicked the layer and selected rasterize. Then you can delete. Okay, so again, just going to delete those bits that are going into the other letters. Select, deselect. Okay, so basically you need to do that for each letter. So each time you're going to file and place a separate image over until you've done all of the words. So I'll show you one that I prepared earlier. Okay, basically it'll end up looking something like this. Now, what you need to do before we clip it is, obviously you've got see-through images which you can still see on my top layer here. But we need to bring the opacity back up so that the images are completely covering the letters like they are here. So what you need to do is you need to click on each individual layer, select the opacity and put that back to 100. So you can either do that by clicking and typing it in, or you can press the arrow and drag it back up to 100. So just to make it a little bit easier, so you need to do that for each picture. So I'm just going down my layers to make sure they're all at 100. Okay, so now what you need to do is you need to right click one of the layers and select similar layers. So what that will do is that will select all of your image layers. Then what you need to do is right click again and select merge layers. So what we want to do is we want to put all these photographs on one layer instead of having them on 18. Okay, so you'll see that now all my images are on that one layer here. Then I've got my type layer and my background still. So what you need to do now is you need to right click on that photo layer, and we're going to select create clipping mask. What clipping masks do is they basically clip to whatever is underneath them. So our digital photography type layer is underneath, so that means that it is clipping these images to those letters. So if I click on that, that's exactly what it's done. So at the moment mine's looking a little bit not well contrasted because of the white background. So I'm going to click on my background here, and I'm going to go to edit and fill, and basically you can select a color, or you can just go with black or white, whatever works best for you. So I'm going to use black. Okay, and as you can see, that brings it out a lot better now. Now, what I'm going to add to mine is my name. So I'm going to select create a new layer and go back to my type tool. And I'm going to type my name, and obviously that's in black, so I need to select that and change it to a color. And I'm going to change my size because that's too big. Back to your move tool to move it into place. And there you've got your cool looking title page using images and Photoshop. So what we need to do now is obviously figure out a way to get this from our screen into our visual diary. So there's two ways to save what you do on Photoshop. The most common is to a JPEG file. So if we're doing any photo edits, things like that, you'll find we'll save that to a JPEG. But for this tutorial, because we're going to print them, we're going to save them as Adobe PDFs. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to File and Save As. And you're going to go into your folder. Okay, and you're going to select the format that says Photoshop PDF. So that's this one here. Okay, now what it will do is it'll come up with a range of options underneath, but we're just going to leave those as is and click Save. And I'm going to replace the one I've already done. Now it will pop up with the save options for Adobe PDF. As long as it's on high quality print, that's okay. And then click Save PDF. And it will save. Might take a little while because there's a lot of things on there. Now if we go into our files, I should be able to open it up like this, and there's your title page. So if I go to my print option now, there it is on an A4 piece of paper, and you can just print that straight through and stick that in your visual diary. So that's that tutorial on how to use clipping masks and images to create your digital photography title page.